Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to DnDTime Brews, a show where me and you and this fella up there in the upper plains,
That's me.
all homebrew, cool Dungeons and Dragons content here for D&D time. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm doing just fine. I have myself a blue moon. I drink them once in a blue moon.
I don't have a brew right now. I just got my water. I was figuring I'd save my brew for the latter half after the break.
Going for halftime?
Going for halftime.
I mean, if we end up following the same pattern we did last time, then halftime is the right place to start getting drunk so we can get silly on those 200-word RPGs.
Start getting drunk, huh?
Yeah, that's where we're going to get silly.
Oh, boy.
But new class. Game. Yeah, but new class is all focus.
All focus. You got to have that laser precision. I see
building classes is hard.
We got a bunch of folks hanging out. We got Sword Co here. We got Kalar, the Forgotten One, Velzeju, Sword again. Sword, you're here twice. And I'm sure there's plenty of you hanging out in the chat, just kind of lurking. But yeah, we're gonna be working on, like Pete alluded to a second ago, some more brainstorming for our new class. Pete, I see you've written the Alchemist up up proper there, huh?
No, that's always been there.
Oh, shit. Maybe I did that. There's two of you. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Or maybe I might have done that last week. I know I wrote new class who dis.
So, as the name Alchemist may foretell, this is kind of a brewmaster, alchemist, potion maker guy. We felt that, and I think a lot of people agree, right? The new Artificer class that just came out, the new Onyx Arcana iteration, really backs off the potion making aspect a lot. It's now more of it does have an alchemist subclass, but it doesn't really make potions. It doesn't really do a lot of alchemy, at least in my
No, I'm with you for sure. The potions feel more like a footnote where it's like, if you want to use the crafting rules that we've placed in the Dungeon Master's Guide, then you're pretty good at it for specifically potions. And that's kind of like the only real mention and the only place it feels like you're actively making potions. And that's very kind of funky.
Yeah, I agree. So hopefully that's kind of our goal, is to make a subclass that makes potions or poultices or whatever you want to call them cool, maybe consumables, maybe longer term buff things, but stuff to make you and your items more powerful over some kind of short duration, probably.
Yeah,
it could be interesting.
And we started kind of putting together some ideas. I know there's been stuff over the course of the last couple of weeks in chat and in like the workshop discussion, and we had some pretty cool directions we were starting to go in. But yeah, we were kind of pushing it more in the direction of, because one of the big decision points, I think we reached a decision on this last week, or last time we did this, correct me if I'm wrong, we kind of decided not to go the traditional spell casting suite and instead kind of create our own sort of suite of pseudo spells in the form of like different things that you can make. And we'd started to create kind of this this three-pronged way to make spells via
a little more modular.
Yeah, via vapors, oils, and potions, like regular potions, I believe.
Yeah, precisely. Interesting. So we talked about vapors, oils, and potions, and we kind of took a little inspiration from like The Witcher with that. At least I did, for certain. But I know you find that kind of stuff in all sorts of different games. Like Darkest Dungeon is a game that the Witch Doctor, I believe they're called. Crap. They've got some cool vapor healing stuff that they can do that gives some cool effects. And there are plenty of other instances of this throughout fantasy tropes and video games and all. But yeah, a bunch of different ways to take a relatively small set of tools and put them together to do exciting or interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I know in the chat, do we want to go over anything else before we...
No. Go ahead.
Thank you, Crowley. But one I know in the chat we've had a lot of comments from some of the people in the DnDTime community. I know Sword Co here in the chat was very into it was the Plague Doctor and the Occultist. That's what I was thinking of. Thank you, Sword and Farful from Darkest Dungeon. But Sword was talking about maybe self-healing and kind of effectively like a Dr. Jekyll deal, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. Which I think would be really, really cool. I think the reference was Dr. Mundo from League of Legends, but
yes.
It's the same concept, right? It's a classic trope that, well, a classic theme.
Yeah, archetype.
That would be cool if this could do. Archetype, thank you. Hello, Max Mike. How are you?
Hey, man, my chat's not working on Twitch for some reason.
Yeah, I had that problem the other day.
Did you solve it?
Huh? I refreshed Twitch.
Oh, I did that too. It's not getting me there.
Did you try popping out the chat?
I also did that.
Oh shit, I'm out of luck. Close Chrome?
Those were my ideas. Yeah, maybe we'll try that.
Well,
I'll rely on you. I'll rely on you to tell me what's going on in chat.
Well, Pete attempts to get that kind of figured out. We've started a little bit putting together something of a framework here to figure out how we're going to build this. So we know a couple of base proficiencies are going to get brewer's tools and alchemist supplies. Not kid. So we figured that out. We figure short-term potions would be really cool. Maybe things like they would only last like 24 hours. So maybe you'd make them at the end of a rest. You'd just get your potions. Would be cool. We also had some concept of being able to make potions based on things that you kill. So maybe if you kill an undead creature, you could make a potion that does something against from it, which would be neat. If we can come up with like a good modular way to do that, that's not too far. So I think what we need to do is we need to pick one of these different directions, right? Whether it be our potions, oils, and vapors category, which might end up being just a framework for subclass too. We either want to pick one of those or pick like the buff potions based on things you kill, or pick something, right? And start to like hash out, well, what are different benefits you could get from it? You know, different ways that it can feel meaningful. Because if it's just once you've killed an undead, everyone in your party gets a +2 to hit against undead for an hour. You know, like, that's a little...
Well, it's powerful, but it's also just not necessarily fun to use.
Exactly. Not engaging.
It's fun the first time you use it and you get the buff. And you're like, oh, cool, I get to use my feature. And then after that, it's going to go downhill. So you have to think about like the longevity of continuing to use abilities and feeling good about them.
Yeah. I mean, maybe this ends up being something more akin to like, and I don't want to get too overcomplicated here, but maybe it ends up having like a series of different bonuses you could pick from, kind of like the invocations deal that that warlocks have. That might be, I mean, it depends on how many ideas we come up with. Are you cool with starting on that one? Because I think that would be a cool place to maybe start off.
Well, in terms of, I want to like talk about a couple other things just so I think we're on the same page going like for what overall direction. What were you thinking? So we have this idea of creating potions in these 3 different categories of oils, potions, vapors. And those are the 3 general types of things that you can make. And in terms of like creating that kind of mix and matching, combining effect, that is kind of what makes you, and I think that's going to be the thing, is that modularity that you were talking about before. I feel like that's going to be the thing that's going to make you really start to feel like you're an alchemist and that you're doing mad science as you're making those kind of choices and crafting your own, you know, in theory, depending on how complicated we make it, you know, we'd have one of those, statistically, there are, you know, you'll never be able to craft every potion kind of thing. You know, we could end up in that kind of situation, which is cool. And I don't think there's anything like that. Are you in agreement that that's like the ultimate direction that we're going for one thing for this?
Well, yeah, and actually, I think you've hit on something really important here that we need to figure out. So I've scrolled down to where we started out putting some ideas for like the base class, so hit points, hit dice, etc., blah blah blah. But I think we need to make another category below that we're gonna call subclasses. Because I think we need to pick what the 3 directions are. We need to decide because we have rough concepts, right, for different like abilities and mechanics effects this class could have. We have self-buffing effects, which we can just kind of figure out once we start delving into it. We have like the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde idea. We have this more Witcher style, I create things and buff myself and I'm a martial character. But I think there's also definitely an archetype in here that is I'm kind of a supporty kind of character, almost in the direction of the artificer as it is, but maybe with a little bit more emphasis on potions. So those kind of like feel like 3 distinct subclasses, right? One that's like an actual martial class, another that's a martial class but doesn't use weapons so much, and one that is more akin to like a spellcaster.
Okay.
I'm just brainstorming, you know.
No, I think that's a cool direction to go with it. And I kind of like that more than necessarily focusing on, like, you know, the one that is the support one is the potion one, and I like rather just like building them up a support kit, because I don't know, in terms of like the framework and how these oils, potions, and vapors are going to work, my own kind of, I don't know if you were thinking on the same page as this, my own idea for how one would build a potion would be there would be, you know, certain effects that, you know, maybe you unlock certain effects at certain levels, and there's, you know, just a suite of things you can do. But this one is like, I want to make damage potion, so you can add, you know, a d8 damage to a potion. When, you know, consumed, it would deal a d8 damage to the person that drank it, which, you know, not necessarily an effective potion, but maybe there's ways that you can combine the other effect. Like, you know, you also have the make it fire potion, so now instead of it dealing a d8 whatever the baseline damage is, like poison damage, instead deals a d8 fire damage when you drink it. And there's kind of different ways to edit it. And I think a great way to like add meaningful class features to the subclasses, if we want to like push those kind of archetypes, would be to have subclass unique potion effects that could be applied to anyone. Exactly. Okay, cool.
I mean, so, for example, like the big, like I really like the whole being able to create potions based on things you kill. That could be like one of the core class features to this more.
Yeah, I picture that as a
option.
Oh, you're thinking of that as like a subclass specific thing, because I think
that could be right.
I think that has the potential to be its own subclass for certain. This kind of very adaptive, more that feels very huntery, naturey.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is like a practitioner, right? This is your like, I do this in the field. I'm a monster hunter and I do alchemy with the stuff. I hunt monsters to do alchemy, right? It's not, I'm a monster hunter that uses alchemy to help my monster hunting. No, I kill monsters so that I can use them for my sick alchemy.
Yeah,
you know,
right. I think that's a very cool archetype for sure.
What do I want to call that third one? Because we have like a Witcher-like feel. There's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde-like feel. What's this third category? This like just kind of more generic, not more. I guess it is kind of more generic, like your classical alchemist.
Yeah, I think I think they're, in terms of directions, we kind of have like this idea of the more supporty one, which feels like, you know, plays more like a cleric with building like healing potions in that kind of direction. And then this Witcher one feels very rangery to me almost. And if we want to go like a more classical alchemist route, one that feels more like a wizard would probably be like the third one. Because when I think of an alchemist, I usually picture someone who is very wizardly and intelligent.
Yeah. So I guess the question I'm coming to here, right? I think these two subclasses, there's definitely room for this because they don't really exist in 5. Right?
Yeah.
There's not, I guess you could make a Witcher-like thing with maybe a Eldritch Knight, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
but not really.
The Eldritch Knight is,
or maybe a Ranger. I think
if
Ranger
you were,
might be able to.
If you were going to, like, Ranger is what I would thinking of. I also don't know a ton about The Witcher.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that there's an opening for that, and I think there's an opening here for the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde buff guy, because I have no idea how the hell I'd do that with the current Suite 5e, and that's a super classic.
Yeah, if you're gonna do that, you would have to heavily reflavor things like haste.
Yeah, I mean that would be just,
and it wouldn't be an effective build, that's for certain.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, I think that.
Well, the question is, where is there room for that more classic take in this subclass, or is that already kind of
maybe that more
already
classic
in the
take? I was gonna say maybe every character can be that kind of classic take, and because I think the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing, buffing yourself, I think that's a character, but I don't think that that's the subclass. I don't think we bake that kind of madness and kind of crazy, because that carries, I think Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde carries a lot of connotations with it, which is also this idea of like you experiment on yourself.
Okay.
It's very mad science, but I think like just a self-buff subclass that's more general, but that would allow you to fulfill that whole archetype if you wanted to.
Okay, so I think that's a cool concept, a cool idea. So maybe, yeah, we'll just call that self-buff. With the idea that it can do a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
So that way, this is our more general option, and this is our physical combat one. Okay.
Yeah, maybe this is also like, maybe this is your martial class.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes you, I picture, if we wanted to emphasize the Dr. Jekyll Hyde style, maybe it's kind of more, I mean, I'm thinking that like melee, makes you physically strong, but maybe we can also figure out a way to encompass weapons, because I guess fists are weapons and things like that, but might be tough to do that self-buff and martial, or do you want to make those separate and have both of those?
Yeah, that's the problem, because we have what's very much a martial class in this Witcher direct, and we have what's not really a martial class, but also not really a. It's strange. I'm just kind of having a hard time figuring out how this other one's going to go. I guess we can make them both martial classes, right? But maybe one is more of a melee versus a ranged option would be cool. Because I could see, and this is really getting a little close to the Artificer as it stands now. Because Artificer as it stands in the Unearthed Arcana has, the heavy crossbow.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see like an alchemist making oils, right, to enhance their heavy crossbow. Right? That like works for me. For a
definitely
a more stand in the back option, like for this second option, I think.
I can definitely I can definitely see that archetype for sure. Your classic syringe gun.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe like light crossbow, and then can enhance shots with might be cool with potion. And I see there's some great stuff coming up in chat, so I don't want to jump right by everything. Seabrek, who just jumped in, welcome, my friend, of course. Talking about maybe imbue healing spells or other types of spells into different types of stones. And now it's a classic Philosopher's Stone alchemy method. It's interesting because that is a concept we had as well. Sort of, we were pulling that in a way from the original Artificer on Unearthed Arcana. I'm just a little worried about going too far in that direction because the Transmuter's Stone is already kind of an iconic.
Yeah, it is a wizard feature.
Bill on the wizard. That's the thing. We need to make this distinct enough to not really interfere with the wizard.
In the same regard, I would like to incorporate some of the mythos of that kind of history of alchemy into this at some point. And maybe there's a
What?
place. Maybe there's a place to do that. I imagine that's definitely going to be like a class feature, like higher up into the class levels. Even if it's just a subtle nod, like the ability to, create fake gold or, an enhanced lifespan.
Exactly. I was
eternal
thinking
life.
elixirs of youth or something.
Yeah, for sure. Elixir is a word that I think will show up in this class quite a bit.
Yeah, elixir is a great word. And I know there's a whole bunch more stuff in chat here.
Create
I
Electrum, says Sword. I have chat back, by the way.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. And Sword had a bunch of other awesome ideas back in the chat. Creating a potion with elemental effects. You can choose either like an oil +2 to the applied effect, a vapor like a D4, or a potion which is a consumed thing. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think taking a concept like, because we have the oils, the vapors, and the potions, and I think having, maybe we can go in a certain direction with it. Because see, the vapors is very much like defensive to a degree, whereas
what are you imagining for the vapor thing? Because I think you were talking before. You were talking about the idea of the censure, and then I know we were also talking about the idea of like the throne and like create vapors and spaces. What? So maybe I think the right place to start here before we get too into the weeds on subclasses, because we have a couple directions we want to go. I think understanding how these potions are going to work is a really strong place to kind of build out from once we get it. And maybe we build it and then are inspired by that and then have to go back and change it later. But having that like baseline, I think will make it easier for us to start thinking about what the rest of the class is going to do.
Yeah, I think we need to start building that
what's going to be a very complicated mechanic.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we starting with, Pete?
All right. I think the place to start is in defining what it means to have each of these delivery mechanisms. So oils, there it says, like what we have is like a rough draft. We have oils, single object, potion, single creature, vapor, AoE. I think we need to go even more specific and say what it means to build a potion into an oil, which I think it means it is applied, what it means to build the thing into a potion, which means it is consumed and drank, and a vapor, which means either we make it that you put it into your sensor and you spread it out around you, or you toss it and make it kind of like a bomb that makes a little cloud of smoke in the area.
Yeah. Okay. So where do we want to write? Probably right down here. Do it right above.
Where are you? Okay, I see you. And maybe this is called, maybe the name of this class feature is either alchemy or brewing. Instead of spellcasting.
I like alchemy. Nice and straightforward.
Yeah.
As an artificer, you are capable of.
I'm just going to grab some spellcasting text because I assume some of it.
I don't think we need to worry too much about the exact text.
Yeah, you're right. We don't need to work the details yet. 100%.
Oh, Diadems. Diadem 1970, thank you very much for this lovely 100-bit donation. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Diadems, thank you so much.
And someone hit someone at the beer can. I saw there was some comment in the chat, Steve Reich, about proficiency with improvised weapons. I don't know. It seems that that's so specific to like a very, very niche concept. We're trying to be a little broader than that. We don't want to be so broad that we're just flavorless like the original Artificer was, the original Last Arcana Artificer, but we don't want to be so niche that you can only play Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah. Also, Max Meister, what if the potions are the weapon? It's someone with a beer keg. I mean, it's very funny. It is definitely very funny. I imagine that at some point when someone's playing the Alchemist, at one point they will take a potion that they've brewed and smash it on the table and wield it like in the classic broken bottle style. Halo Dude 73 asks, if this is kind of like Mundo, would this mean the class would have the ability to sacrifice health for defense? Or am I thinking about this the wrong way? I wouldn't necessarily say you're thinking about it the wrong way. I don't know. I mean, we can definitely make features that like, you give up one thing for another. I think that very much this idea of And this is more my framework for what I think of when I think of alchemy, Jeremy. I don't know if you've ever seen Full Metal Alchemist.
I've seen very.
I think a phrase that we can borrow from that they use very frequently is this idea of equivalent exchange, which is, this idea, a lot of like chemistry and physics terms where, matter cannot be created or destroyed. If you do one thing, it has a cost elsewhere. These are themes that I think we can bake into the class in different places. So the idea of sacrificing health for defense could be like a feature that we would use, but we're not necessarily trying to make specifically Mundo. We want Mundo to be something that is possible to make with what we end up with, but we don't want to make a class that's meant to be played like that character.
I agree.
Let's focus back down on where were we talking about the alchemy features as the potential name here.
Yeah, so we call it alchemy. As an artificer, you're capable of creating basic alchemical substrates from which to base your concoction. And we can find way better words than this, but this is just a basic, like, we're starting somewhere. And I have your write-up as well, and we'll be pulling things from here as we go, because Sword put actually a really cool write-up in the workshop in the DnDTime Discord, so you guys should check that out too, and we can talk about this like as we go along. So basic chemical substrates. These substrates are vapors. Substrates is not the right word, but whatever. Vapors. I think instead of potions, let's call them elixirs.
Elixirs is a great idea. I like that a lot.
And oils. So these substrates are elixirs and oils. And how do we want to define these?
One thing also, okay, so I think elixirs are consumed. Action economy, we're talking about using action economy to define them, and they are a baseline consumable. Is that consumable is a keyword in 5e, right?
It doesn't matter, but yeah, we'll define it as whatever for our purpose. As a bonus, as a bonus action, is that going to be standard across elixirs?
Yeah, I think that elixirs are probably bonus actions.
Okay.
Drinking a potion every turn feels cool if you're going for that archetype.
So elixirs are bonus action, consumed. What else? Actually, let's put this all in one line. Anything else?
I think that's all.
Are they? I think elixirs are kind of almost. I guess they're not necessarily always defensive, because you could make like a poison.
Well, I like the idea of all of them being adaptable, and this is just one manner of creating it. So any one of them could be.
I guess they're all adaptable.
Any one of them could be anything.
Yeah.
And so like you could have like a healing elixir, a healing oil, and a healing vapor.
God, how would you make a healing oil?
And I think very much like verbal, somatic, and material components on each little thing that we gave. Like this is a potion. We can put like an EVO as like this can be an elixir or a vapor, or this can be all three, or this can be just one of them.
Yeah, I love that idea. That's a really cool thing to go. So let's talk about elixirs. So bonus action to use consumed. They can also be used by others. Like you can give people elixirs.
Yep.
That's not just you. I
think anything here could be applied by anyone.
So you can just hand these out.
Yeah, I think you can hand stuff out. And that's going to go into something that we're probably going to have to establish about alchemy pretty early as well, which is when do you determine when your potions are created? Are we doing that like you create them on the fly and it's a certain amount of action economy to create one? Or is it you can just do it when you finish a long rest and that you create all your potions for the day?
So this is a really important topic we want to discuss because the biggest issue with any of these, like, I make these things classes, like the current artificer with their magic items, is if you're a class that's not optimized to do combat because you're making things, that's what you're optimized to do, it's always going to be better for you to, almost always going to be better for you to give your stuff to someone else, and then you're weaker in combat because you don't have your stuff. And I think Sword nailed it with the concept of the fast brew, or whatever you want to call it.
About the fast brew, is that just the putting things together on the fly?
Exactly. Where, like, I think the idea is you start with a couple of these base concoctions or whatever, and then with the fast brew, that's where you give them a little extra oomph. So you can give them to someone else just as they are. But the idea is when you use them, they get an extra little boost. And you can pick what that little boost is, and it's situational, and you can just use it on the right.
So yeah, maybe you are better at using your potions than other people, is the core idea.
Exactly.
I think that is not only a good idea, it is necessary to make this class work well.
Exactly. It's still great to give a healing elixir to an ally.
Yeah.
But if your healing elixir also removes all debuffs from the target, for example, that's really good.
Yes.
Right? Where, because you can sprinkle a little bit of iodine in. Or maybe it gives them resistance to fire damage for a round. Or something like that's along the lines of the fast brew kind of concept that I'm looking at, or I'm thinking of, right? It's just like, for one round, it does a thing. Or it does one situational thing really well, like removing, poison.
Yeah, and we also probably want a few non-situational bread and butter ones, so that they're also more inclined to just like, well, I always have this one to fall back on, so it
does
just
extra
kind of
damage or healing equal to your proficiency bonus. Super easy. Cool. So that'll all go under fast brew, which we're gonna make a
probably its own feature. It's probably like you get that at level 2. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
When you use an alchemical concoction, I guess I'm using the word concoction. Spell that right? That's a weird looking word. You can add an extra effect. Yeah. So I'm just gonna bold, underline, highlight you. Just so that no one gets any wrong ideas here when you use it.
And both of these things, and this is a thing that they can't really do quite as well, I think, in the spell system, both the alchemy, like the things that you can create, and these fast brews are things that would make great subclass features as well, unique ones to each subclass that are more powerful. Like, that's a thing I've always thought they really missed out on, say, the Sorcerer, is I always thought the Sorcerer subclasses should have had meta magics that were unique to them.
That would be really neat. And that's exactly the direction we're going for here with Fast Brew. It's just a more... Except instead of being on a resource, it's like you always get one.
You just can do it. Yeah.
Exactly. So before we get too lost on Fast Brew, actually, we should continue nailing out what these different things. So bonus action to use for elixirs, and they're consumed. Must be consumed specifically. So there's no throwing elixirs and then blowing up.
Yep, I think it's just like the vapors are your explosions, and I think even a vapor that makes a big explosion, that would still be considered a vapor.
Yep, I agree. I think they'd fall under that category.
Yeah, so these are I think this is your throw it and it blows up.
So throw it and it affection area.
Action must be thrown, area of effect.
Yep. Action. Thrown, AoE. All right, I dig that. It's not necessarily always a bad thing, it can be a good thing too. Which I like. I like the idea of just like, for one round you throw a thing and it gives everyone in the area resistance to fire damage right as the red dragon's coming down.
Yeah. Very cool.
Or right before you need to rush through the wall of fire. Let's see. There's a cool, interesting thing in chat from Seabrick talking about maybe a tree of options for the elixirs. You can start out with 2 or 3 basic potions and add different ingredients and split into different ones. Like adding leather to potion 2 creates a shield effect, but adding berries creates an instant health regeneration.
Yeah,
It's
I think
interesting.
that's kind of in line where we're going, but maybe not so specific on ingredients.
Yeah, maybe that sounds like really cool reflavoring of these ideas. I think we'd say you can pick from these effects, and then as like a player, you can flavor that as however you want, and maybe putting some flavor text in there as like examples. Cool. Oh, holy shit, that's an elixir from hell. Yeah. I agree. Can I just add some leather to it? Yum 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 yum. Drink it up. Drink up my elixir of leather. Anyway, so vapors, action, throw, and AoE.
Yes.
Let's talk about oils.
Oils, I have less of a strong... Oils feel more niche to me than the other two. Like the other two, I can imagine so many effects that would apply to both, but the oil, a little bit less so. But I think where we were going was oils are applied, right?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about oils. So oils are definitely applied. So applied to an item and or ammo. Our next big issue is if you look at poisons as they exist in 5e, I mean, I don't know, you played a lot of 5e, Pete. I've played a lot of 5e too. In chat, between the lot of you, you might have played as much 5e as Pete and I. I'm kidding, you guys played a ton of 5e too. Or you're new, but if you're new, this is a learning thing. No one uses poisons 5e because they're really bad. Mechanically, they're just very weak. They only last for a minute before drying up and being useless.
Yeah,
they take an action to apply, so they are really bad to use in combat. And of course, they're one-time use, so that's always rough. How do we want to address that with these oils?
My answer to that question is I don't in particularly know. I had always imagined using like the baseline system and making them just better for having those restrictions, because even though I think the restrictions make them kind of weak and they feel bad, they are like, if it was worth more benefit, that might offset it. Additionally, I think we can be kinder to the action economy on them.
Yeah, I think there's a couple like.
There's also the possibility of, oils could have a lot of fun as being a more preparatory element where the duration is indefinite and they last an amount of uses.
That would be, I think, well, so the thing is, we don't want it to just be a just +2 damage and pick an element kind of deal. We want it to be a little bit more versatile.
Yeah.
But I think you're in the right idea.
And that's definitely going to be an aspect of it.
So elixirs, right, are instantaneous effect. That's something we didn't note on them.
Yep.
Vapors are instantaneous effect.
Oils are presumably lingering effects.
Yeah, exactly. So lingering effect. So I think the couple directions we could go, right? And maybe this ends up being what their resource cap is for these. But I imagine they're going to be pretty potent. They're not going to be wanting to blow through all of these. I think when we were talking about it, we were shooting kind of in the direction of the half caster level, in terms of like usability here, right?
Yeah.
Especially since both of these subclasses are going to have martial capability. So I think we can, really pick between the two, right? Where I think the optimal one, if we want to be super precise, is number of uses, but that kind of feels, it'd suck to have it just kind of randomly run out, like in a,
what do you mean by that?
apply it to your quiver of arrows. It applies to 5 arrows, and then you just miss 5 attacks. It just sucks.
Yeah, it definitely feels bad on arrows. A little bit more reasonable on.
A little bit more reasonable on
weapons.
Because then it's like just a direct.
Yeah, that's just when you hit. And maybe we can specify that a use is considered when you hit. Rather than applying it to the arrow, the idea is you're applying it to like the bowstring or like the mechanism on the crossbow bolt. I think there's a way to justify it without necessarily making it ammunition based and more making it weapon based.
I mean, my thought was like we could have it. We could either have it be a like you apply it to all of your ammunition and all of whatever, and or your weapon, right? And it lasts for an hour. Or maybe it's a certain amount of ammunition. I think we have to put a cap on the number. I think it's weird to apply it to an item unless you have a special alchemical crossbow, right? That it works, which would be. Is that what you were getting at?
I wasn't necessarily saying like making a unique weapon. I was just saying like I think there's a justification for, you know, you apply the oil to like say the barrel of the crossbow and it coats the arrows on the way out. Like I think you could make a case for it if we want to use the use system, because it does sound pretty clean to use uses. That's it. It sounds pretty clean to use uses.
So I think, is it limited to a slashing or piercing weapon?
Because
I have a really hard time envisioning my club covered in oil.
I love it. I do love the idea of the big, great club that you just pour a whole bunch of oil on. It's just dripping with the stuff. No, that's terrible. You're probably right that it applies to a slashing or piercing weapon.
Okay. So please for slashing, piercing weapon. We'll say melee weapon or crossbow. Just to specify that you need to use a crossbow. Because I don't think you use this with a bow and arrow.
That's a little funky.
It just doesn't click. And I think we hit the right idea with saying it's a certain number of you.
Yeah. And maybe that is something, I don't know if that's something that either...
God, that's so weird though, right? Because that I don't think that works, because it's going to be so weird with cross-classing.
Yeah, it definitely gets... I mean, everything gets funky with cross-classing. Well, actually, does it get funky? Why do you say that?
I just think it could. We could get just some weird shit going. Because I think we're going to be building this with an assumption of like...
You're worried about just like getting ridiculous weapon stacks, and then...
I think duration is just like, it's cleaner. It's more consistent with like spells having durations.
Yeah, I just like, I'm worried more about having like a universal duration, because it feels like we can also apply duration to other things as well. And I imagine there might be effects that we want to make that have durations on them. And maybe you're not. Of course,
they can have durations. I mean, the other things can have durations. Like obviously, you can have an elixir that knocks someone out for 8 hours.
Yeah,
for example, that's fine. But the effect is they fall unconscious instantaneously. This is
okay.
The oil effects can be reapplied, can reoccur over and over for a duration. So I think we give them a duration, and I guess the question, right, is bonus action or action. And if we do bonus action, it's a minute. If we do action, it's an hour. That just kind of makes the most sense to me, or maybe 10 minutes. Something they can preemptively use.
I see what you're getting at.
Do we want it to be a multiple encounter thing, or maybe just a once an encounter thing? Because
I feel like one oil per encounter makes a lot of sense to me. I think there's also like a lot of cool potential there in like you're going into a dangerous encounter, and you have like multiple weapons that you've put different oils on, and that gives you like, that just sounds like very cool and very fun to me. Of being like, I'm going to burn an extra spell slot to be more prepared for a variety of different situations. I know we're not using spell slots, but whatever the equivalent thing that we have.
So bonus action and then 1 minute, 10 minutes. Which way?
Duration. I would rather just make it. I would rather just make it 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, I think 10 sounds okay.
And it's also just less complicated.
Well, and I think the big thing, right, is you can only have one oil applied to a weapon at a time.
I was 100% on the same page as you there. You can't just stack a bunch of oils. Because the way that like this interacts with what would normally be concentration is definitely going to be something that we'll have to consider and like factor into building this whole.
And additionally, I mean, this could apply to to ally stuff too.
Yeah.
And I think the big limiter on this is you only have so many of these because we're going to be limiting these like a half caster spell slots. So yeah, you could just walk into a battle having applied oils to all of your allies' weapons. But if that enemy retreats, and gets away, and you have to chase him down, and 10 minutes pass, you're out of juice. I think 10 minutes might be a little long for
a bonus action.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, right? Is like,
well, maybe it's an action and it's 10 minutes, so it's designed as like a preparatory thing, which also fits in, I think, very much with the theming of the class.
I agree. I think it works better as an action, and give it 10 minutes. It still has, so it has a drawback to use it actively in combat, but it has some benefits to other ones.
And of
course, it gains extra benefits from fast brew.
There's going to be other things naturally. Sword Courier says bonus to create, but action to use. We're definitely going to work in, like, we have to figure out the whole creation. We haven't gotten into creation yet. That's going to be a whole.
I think the idea is, right, you create these basic substrates, and you get them like on a short rest or a long rest, right? Gain X, refill on long rest.
And maybe we can just do it as a flat number. And we can like scale the number of.
Maybe.
Well, actually, no, because I feel like there's going to be higher level things that you're making. You're like making better potions by being like, okay, well, this potion isn't just a regular elixir. This is an elixir with this and this in it. So that's like basically like costs 2 to make. So I imagine there's going to be like some kind of points thing for ingredients that represent ingredients kind of abstractly.
Yeah, so maybe you just have a kind of nebulous, as much of this base substrate as you want, and then you have a limited number of other things you can. So I think that's fine. So I think we can just write here, and I'll put it in italics for like flavor.
These aren't even these aren't potions yet. These are just ways you can make a potion, basically.
Yep. This is basis all future concoctions. And you use alchemical bullshit to regenerate it during a long rest, if lost or used. I think that's simple enough. Maybe there's like a magic item that you have as an artificer, right, that creates this substrate. It could be, our philosopher's stone concept we were talking about before, right? Or it could be you can transmute basic water into this alchemical substrate. I think that's a cool option too. Maybe like can transmute water into.
Yeah. That absolutely makes sense.
And can transmute water from the air. There we go. There's no question here.
You always have it. And I would like to build one like potion and think about like how one effect could be applied in these 3 different ways. And I think a simple damage effect is the way to look at it.
Yeah. So let's start. So, so what do we want to call these? So let's call these lesser concoctions. Is concoction the word we want to use?
I think concoction is at least a great starting point. I don't think we
maybe ingredient.
I don't even think we need to. I think concoctions just by itself is a good way to go.
Okay. Well, because I think you get better ones as you get to higher levels.
Yeah.
Or maybe you.
I think they're all concoctions, but you just you unlock them at different levels, and it just.
Yeah. And maybe they get more. So like it's healing, right?
Yeah, healing concoction.
At start of long rest, or at end of long rest. You create X. What is it?
X points worth of concoctions.
Alchemical points, which can be used to create concoction. Can't spell, guys. I'm bad at spelling.
And if we're doing it in this system, there's the possibility of a way to do fast brew with that mechanic might be to like, at the time that you use it, you can just spend another alchemical point and have that potion be more flexible. Like you can add an extra alchemical point right at the end when you use it. Like,
yeah, I think that might be a cool
yeah,
a cool.
that's
way
just
to work
that's just an idea for the mechanic. I remember, like I said, putting the horse before the cart there. But yeah, I would like to like build one potion, and I think, like I said, damage is an easy one, in my opinion. So I think building a damage elixir, vapor, oil, and thinking about how it would be different in each of those, because it can't be, for example, a flat rate of damage, because then why would you ever? Well, for one thing, there's no reason to really make a damage elixir unless you're trying to trick someone. But also, the vapor shouldn't do the same D8 in an AoE that the elixir does in a single source. So in my opinion, it feels like the elixir should be more potent than necessarily the AoE vapor. And the oil should be far less potent, because it wouldn't make any sense to ever use an elixir that deals 1d8 if you're going to just deal 1d8 over and over again with the oil.
Yeah, and I think just an easy way to do that is if we go back to elixirs.
Put dice on them.
Dice of elixirs doubled. That's a really easy way to do it. It's concentrate. That's, I think, a pretty decent option there.
Yeah. Okay. So you're thinking, I was gonna throw out like, I was gonna throw out. I think I like yours more already, but to put mine,
sure,
out into the world, I was thinking like, an elixir, a vapor is a D6, an oil is a D4, and an elixir is like a D12 or something like that, as just like a flat baseline for just generally how they interact with dice. Because I can imagine, a healing vapor of a D4, you throw it on the ground, and or a D6, everyone heals for a D6. It's still pretty powerful depending on the size of the AoE. You might get a couple people. So the idea is like, it would even out if you got 2 people, and then the oil would be even out if you used it 3 times. But I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So if we'd say D4, D8, D12.
I mean, I don't know. No, I was thinking D4, D6, D12. With oil, vapor, elixir going ascending there. Elixir obviously being the most powerful. But again, I don't know. I think Dice of Elixirs doubled. It's like, I think that text is a little awkward, but I think it probably works better.
Oh, of course. I mean, this is all super like temporary stuff here.
Yeah. Either way, we just have to make sure I think having those be consistent in relation to each other. So there's like a formulaic way that you can apply and expect these things to work. Also, Maddie Morgs just subscribed for the 7th month.
Whoa!
Ooh, split. Thank you so much, Maddie Morgs. We very much appreciate it.
And I really like this cool feature for our subclass here, for the less like monster slay one, which we could just call, and this is an idea from Sword Co here there, right? Increases the die of your abilities by 1.
Yeah,
would be cool. Die, the die size of your concoctions. So D4 goes to D6, etc. And we can figure out like phrasing for stuff.
That's a cool mechanic.
It's just a radical ability.
Another one from Sorko here. Apothecary, increase the hit die of your fast brew abilities. Oils +1, vapors +1d4, potions +1d8. That's another kind of thing that we could definitely incorporate as a nice proficiency bonus
down there.
Scaling. Oh, okay, that was the feature you're referring to.
Yeah. So actually, that could go under fast brew too, as an option. That actually would not be a bad idea.
I was thinking that was another thing. Anyway, both of those, I think there's a couple of.
We can put it as like a class feature or as a fast brew feature.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk concoction. X alchemical points.
I think next time we do this, a brainstorming session for just like what all the different concoctions could be and what different things you could do with a potion would be worthwhile. But for now, would you just like to build out what a damage concoction might look like?
Sure, I think that's a good idea. So I think damage can be elixir, it can be vapor, and can definitely be oil. So we've got all 3.
Yep.
And I think damage is a little too nebulous. I think we'd have to like call it like poison or whatever. Well, use poison. That's a really good example.
Poison is
so straightforward. Right.
Yeah.
So it's an elixir, vapor, or an oil. And upon use, it deals 1d8 poison damage. Super straightforward. And maybe... Actually, if we want to have this kind of in tune with a... So what if we say it's 2d8 poison damage? Because we want to kind of compare this to like a spell effect. And I'm thinking
like a first
of a
level
level
spell.
1 spell is Burning Hand. If we compare vapors, right?
Okay, yeah. And Burning Hands is 2d8.
It's 3d6.
It's 3d6.
I mean, 3d6 is a little better than 2d8. But maybe... but with fast brew, right, we can add something else to this. So there we go. So it'll be better if you use it. If you just give it to an ally, it's 2d8. And maybe plus 1d8 per additional, right, point.
Yeah.
So the idea is it's more efficient to use these at their base mode, but you can be a little less efficient to boost them up a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of like casting spells.
Yeah, and that's just the efficiency of it. And there's no duration on this. So my question now is, using the kind of system that we've created, how would you interpret this ability if this was it? I think that it's going to need some more stuff to make it more interpretable, and some other it's going to need other framework to make this interpretable. Because currently, I think you drink the potion and it deals 4d8 with what we have written there. Poison damage if someone drank this.
Yep, and I think that is along the right order.
Yeah, I think that's.
And I even think for the vapor, it's on the right order. For oil, it's not.
Yeah, very much, because
oil,
having that
way too much.
That's very, very powerful.
So a couple of solutions to that. Option 1 that I'm thinking of, right, is instead of 2d8s, we could call this 4d4s. Right? And if we keep everything, and this is a bit of a design constraint, but if we kept everything on magnitudes of 4s, we could just say 1/4 of dice for oil.
Well, that's another reason I think we could maybe back into. I think we can back into that, different dice. Like if the elixir is a D12, the vapor is a D6, and the oil is a D4. I think we could have a thing where it's deal the substrate deal the substrate damage as poison damage to a target. And then it could be interpreted that way. The poison effect then would just have a very specific, a very precise text where it would just be deal poison damage equal to your substrate damage die.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So upon use, deal poison damage equal to your substrate damage die. And then what were we saying for the oils, D4?
Yeah, and then a D4 for the oils. So it's, the idea of vapors, you get your D12. Because then I think elixirs, you get your D12 if it hits once. You get your 1D6. It's equivalent if you hit 2 things with it. It evens out. And then if you use the oil 3 times, then it is the same. This
still didn't quite do it for me.
It's closer.
It's closer,
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So I think, here's the thing. If this were 2d6, or actually if this were 2d8 for an AoE effect.
Okay.
Right? I think that would be in the right magnitude here. If this, 1d4, I still think that's in the right magnitude here. Maybe we could do a d6.
Yeah, and maybe there's better places.
How does this compare to I'm thinking of a level 1 spell. Actually, they just created for the artificer. What is it?
1d6, I think, is actually the
arcane weapon.
Yeah, that's a great comparison point to make.
Yeah. So this is a concentration-less arcane weapon that you can just apply to whatever, and it lasts for 10 minutes.
Which is very good.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Very, very.
It's closer to what we want, but definitely still too powerful.
It takes an action, so that's a huge comparison limiter. But so maybe D4 is the right direction. So we got vapors, oils, and elixirs. So I think if that's 2d12, so at this point, what is it? 2d12s for the elixir die? Like, since it's a single target versus an AoE?
Yeah, and actually maybe it's instead of 2d8, what's the equivalent of a single target ability, which I think of like, if we're talking Burning Hands, then the
3d8.
first little counterpart would be 3d8.
Yeah. So 3d8, let's actually just look at that directly, right? So 3d8, 3d6, 1d4 is really what we have here to compare.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's pretty all right.
Yeah, and I think honestly the single target could even come up maybe a touch more. One, because it's just not that effective in an elixir format.
Exactly. It's hard to do. I mean, if you're looking at the best option, it's actually 3d10 on.
Okay, but now I'm realizing though, I realize why I liked my last system of the 1d4, 1d6, 1d12 is because that these are universal numbers. So for healing, it would 3d6, 3d8, and 1d4 are out of control.
Depends.
Like a level 1 3d8 heal would be crazy as a healing potion that they could just make a bunch of.
Well, they can't make a bunch of. This is your spell slot. These are your
but it's just like so much more efficient than say a cure wounds.
I don't necessarily think that. You get to add your wisdom modifier to cure wounds. You don't add any modifiers to this.
Okay, so these are flat. That's something. Still, I think pretty significant.
And
increase.
I mean, an example, and another thing is right. We could just say that it's just healing is right, elixir and vapor probably. This is probably not a healing oil. And upon use, and we might get too in the weeds here. So heals heals damage equal to substrate die, and maybe it's like one size less. We can come up with a way to say that isn't like, and we're getting a little bit in the weeds here, but I think
I think that's okay. I think that's okay on this because this is going to be like, this is going to form the foundation for everything we do moving forward.
Because 3d6 is huge, very good.
Yeah,
for a heal, but we're comparing it to a d8 plus 3 probably.
D8 plus 3 versus 3 D6 in this case.
D8 plus 3 is going to be between 4 and 11, whereas 3 with an average of 7.5. 3d6 is going to average at 9. It's a little better.
It's a little better,
and I think that's good. I actually think that's good that it's a little better because I think it should be.
Yeah. Another thing I'm worried about though is the idea of like how do you feel about a 3d4 healing vapor where it hits 2 people and heals 2 people for 3d4?
I think if these have a set size, right? So if vapors always with their AoE, if we say that they are
5-foot radius.
Oh, I mean, right? If we say it's a 5-foot radius,
yeah, that's something that I think
that's limited.
Define about.
If we say it's a 30-foot radius, that's also limited. Do you want to heal your enemies? Right? There are limitations to it that I think make it okay. It's very good. But, healing is always the kind of rule of healing in 5e. It's a little less efficient than damage. And 3d4 is a little less efficient than 3d4 plus 3, which is magic missile.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually all right. I mean, it's multiple targets, so it's a little funky, but
anyway, I think this is we're moving down a path that I'm starting to feel good about on this in terms of how it's coming out. So I think it's okay to like put that as an idea for now. And honestly, this is what I had in mind. I wanted to build out a potion and just see how it's going to work. We're gonna have to come up with scaling for alchemical points. We'll talk about and in terms of building a potion, I figured that there was one of the core defining features of your class, just like your maximum spell slot level. I figured there would be a maximum number of points that you can put into a given potion based on your level.
I think so as well, and I think the solution to that, and maybe I'm totally wrong, But I was thinking, I don't know, actually, now that I'm like really, because I'm trying to compare it to like the half caster. We want these to be as effective as half caster features for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough to say.
Yeah.
So the highest spells that half casters get are level 5, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Level 5 is Mass Healing Word, right? Which is 3d8.
Yeah.
Which is a little better than this would be at 64, right?
Yeah. Which is a 5th level spell.
Yeah.
It's not as easy to use as Healing Word. You don't get to pick your targets. They have to be.
Well, exactly. There's some major limits to it.
But it's still definitely a lot.
Mass Cure Wounds. Yeah, Mass Cure Wounds. I'm sorry. That's what I was thinking of. Thank you, Farfel.
Yeah.
I'm describing Mass Cure Wounds. I was saying Mass. So, like, I think I was thinking like 1/3 your proficiency bonus rounded down would be a way to do it. Alternatively, what we could do is we could put a limit on the points you can put into it based on like when cantrips level up 5, 11, 17.
Yeah, I think it's just something like that,
Okay.
Or we can even just go by like what would be the spell level progression for a half caster if we really want to perfectly modify it like that.
I mean, what we could do, right, is we could just they add substrate die, right? That's what it does to basically substrate die, and then it's just like maybe it could be like plus 1d6 per additional point, and then max of would be a way to handle that too. Because obviously, if we were saying like, you get twice your substrate die, because
that
you
would
put
be
2 points into it, that would be way more efficient. That'd be very, very good. I still like the idea that overdoing these is less efficient. I
there's also the possibility that healing isn't a first level spell. Like you don't get that one at level 1. There's also it's also the possibility that like the healing concoction, we're thinking of it obviously off the bat as a first level of thing. It might not be a first level thing. It might be like because the poison and healing are very different. We could just make it a higher level ability when we're actually like working it all out and balancing it. Because again, as I've mentioned a whole bunch of times, what we're doing is going to be very intricate in terms of like balance and how everything works out. Already, I think that can be seen here.
So let's talk real quick about which direction we want to go, because I think we have poison right here, and maybe we could do other things with poison. So for example, we have poison, right? What if we had venom, and it is just a elixir, and it does some other crazy thing like paralysis? Right?
Yeah.
We could get into the weeds with this pretty easy. So I guess the question is, how many total do we want? Do we want you to be unlocking more as you level up? Because I think you do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a lot of the fun of the class, is getting new little tricks to put into your potions.
So is this going to be like invocations where you can learn a couple and there might be level restrictions on them?
Maybe is my answer. Okay. I think there's the two camps. It would be invocations versus you just get all of them at different levels when you unlock them, or they're all like
I think the customization that we're really focusing on in this, the ability to mix and match and customize, I think we really want to do the invocation like. I think the cookie cutter, all alchemists learn the same things, that like all clerics get all the same spells.
Yeah,
I don't think we want to go in that direction. I think we want it to be more along the invocation,
making choices.
Yeah, making lots of meaningful. is really the
Yeah, I'm fine with that for sure.
So invocation, like direction, level restrictions on certain concoctions. What else? Level restrictions. Is that it?
I mean, well, we can think about it. Those are kind of the two big ones.
How many
I think.
total?
Yeah, a number.
I think like if we said that there were, so if you get to pick, what do you think? 4 off the bat?
Yeah.
And maybe we have 8 total options, so you get to pick half of them.
You mean 8 total level 1 options?
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe all this subject to change, but yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable place to start. How often do you want to be giving people new ones? Because I feel like I would want as a player to be picking another one, if not every level, but like every other level, I'd probably want to be picking one.
Yeah, I think every other level is a great kind of way to go about it. Since these are kind of your bread and butter, boom. So yeah, I'm sorry, Patchwork. I didn't comment on your deal right there. I really liked your comment there from Raven, taking some inspiration from Ravenloft. Then Richter's Arsenal. Higher alchemy is creation of life and soul, the realm of making golems and homunculi, of creating grafts of living metal to alter the fundamental nature of an object. This is why I don't like the word alchemist, because we're not super necessarily going that kind of direction. I think creating like a homunculus is way too stepping on the toes of the
also
that just came out.
Definitely not what we're going for with the homunculus for sure.
Yeah, so I don't think we're going quite in that direction. And maybe calling this like the Brewmaster, which I know Sword's with me on Brewmaster.
You like the name Brewmaster, do you?
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to like keep this from being confusing for folks who chemist. The apothecary is a great one. The plague doctor is a great example of something we can call it. There are a lot of really good names, and I think we can figure. I think the name is like, once we've really started to do all of these, right, build them out and get things moving along, that's where we can figure out, well, what did we create? What is this thing eventually? I really like the direction we're going.
I do as well, and
so get a new one everywhere.
We are we've been going for quite a while now, Jeremy. Actually, I don't know if you've checked the time, but we're already at 10:15.
Yeah, I noticed. So I just want to put these last couple things down about the concoction. So just to finish this like progression, because this is great. This is incredible. We're getting close to a progression, Pete. We're figuring out a progression.
Yeah, no, we're starting to.
I don't want to lose that.
Some life. I can go. I'm honestly down to just. I'm having a lot of. I'm really enjoying getting into. I don't know if this is. We're getting into the nitty gritty of it, and that's what I really love in class design, as I've done this a couple times, and I'm down to just keep doing this. I don't know how you feel about it, and just working the alchemist or the brewmaster or the apothecary, what have you. And I'm also interested in what people in chat feel. Are you guys looking forward to go? Yeah, are you looking to move on now onto the 200-word RPG challenge, or do you want to see us continue kind of like hammering away at this class?
Yeah, let us know. What we're gonna do is we're gonna finish this invocation like direction, like this progression we're figuring out, and then
take a break.
Take a quick break, and we'll come
see
back.
What you guys think?
Yeah, what you guys say. So let us know what you want. 200-word RPGs, more Brewmaster, more brewing.
Indeed.
Okay, so you get a new one every level. Get to pick 4 right off the bat. I think level restrictions. At 5, 11, and 17, probably, right?
17.
Not 17. I don't like 17. That's way too high. 15.
16. 16. Makes sense.
No, it doesn't. 17. It should be 17, but I hate that. 17 feels so high. I guess 17 is like the elixir of life, right? This is like, I imagine this is where you get your like bullshit like, oh yes, I can make myself young.
Your 9th level elixirs. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like that actually. Because that's like, a lot of other capstones are like, you no longer age. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, fuck, I can just make myself younger. Okay, I dig that.
And then, so the total, I mean, that would put us roughly in a total of about, it's not even about, we can just figure it out.
It'd be 14.
Yeah.
Or
no,
13.
13. Yeah.
That feels like a little much to me.
That does feel like a lot. Maybe, I think the place to cut might be at the early side. Because, like, how would you feel if you took 2 at the beginning, got 1 every other level, which still feels good throughout the class?
Because I think
and then ended up at 11.
Clunky.
Yeah, that's also just a lot to give someone.
Yeah,
right
and then
away.
maybe we have 6 options at level 1. It's actually so pick 2 at level 1, 2 or concoctions. And then that. So then 6 options at level 1. I mean, do we want to have 6? We could just have 4 even. Just keep it like nice and simple. And then 4 at level 5. And of course you can take level 1 option. And then 4 at each breakpoint, right?
Yeah.
4 at each breakpoint. And maybe that's 4 or 6, and we figure that.
And I like
because
kind of.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I like that kind of sets it up too. So at level 1, you start out with 2. There's 4 options, and then at level 3 you get a 3rd option. So you get 3 of the baseline ones, and then at level 5 and 5, 7, 9 you end up getting 3 of the next tier ones out of the 4. So basically you're like leaving 1 behind there. On each category, which is either I don't know if we want that or we don't want that, but.
So here's what I was thinking, right? So if we had like, what if we had, okay. 3 general options at level 1, and then 3 niche options.
Are you thinking of these as separate?
Or maybe 4, maybe we just have 4 general options at level 1, but then I think we have like 3 and 3 at each breakpoint. Because, like, for example, like Venom, right, does something like paralysis. Okay, you have to ingest it. It's like super powerful, but like it doesn't work very like this has like a pretty serious thing.
While I'm thinking of it, elixirs being willing consumption probably should be specified. Because I feel like I'm already picturing a lot of like
someone trying to grapple and force feed a.
Yeah, well, not even like that feels less bad to me, but I'm picturing like they toss their elixir of venom and they try and throw it in the monster's mouth, and I feel a lot of DMs that's the kind of thing. And again, weeds right now. That's the kind of thing a lot of DMs might struggle with because it's definitely not intended use case.
Yeah. So I think what we just know, rather than I don't want to use the word willing consumption.
Yeah, because that's whack. It makes no sense.
Yeah, so like, I think we just have to put something in there, and I'll put it in like italicized highlight, and I'll underline it too, just to be super annoying. And it'll say like, try to prevent or add phrasing to specify that
they can't be force fed.
Yeah, well, not even that, right? Cannot be hucked willy-nilly into a monster's mouth. Like, just prevent the bullshit.
Yeah, like that's because them like making of someone that they're interrogating drink like a truth serum that feels very cool and that's interesting. We don't want to cut that out, but
exactly. So it's just that's all. I think that's good enough.
Something like that, yeah.
And we can figure out the exact text for this stuff. Finding out the exact text, super gritty. How did you feel about this general / niche? Did we want all of the concoctions to be fairly general, or do we want to have some like weird niche ones in there? Like, for example, a concoction of flame. right? That maybe gives you resistance to flame, to fire damage.
I think a lot of general options is good because generals are easier to customize and make your own combo things. Because I imagine like there's going to be some like, you know, damage resistancy ones. There's probably some temporary hit points kind of ones. And I imagine making like, you know, oh, I want to build one that does the damage and the temporary hit points and combine them into one mega potion. That where I'm really good against this thing. You know, that kind of thing is easier with general options. But I think, I don't know, I think that's something that we can play by ear. As I imagine the next time we work on this class, it's going to be a lot of like homebrewing, just like, here are a bunch of invocation ideas and let's run away with it and see what like creative stuff people come up with.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like, what's going to be so cool for me, I think, is coming up with the names for these concoctions.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be fun.
It's gonna be. But regardless, we actually are well overdue on our break. So stay tuned, fellas. We're gonna be back in about 4 or 5 minutes, so to speak, or give or take. Where we will be. Well, I don't know. Let us know in the chat. You want us to do Twitter Word RPGs? You want us to keep going with this? Just yeah. See you guys in a minute.
Bye. welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hi.
Whoa.
You're just talking about Jeremy. What's so wrong? What's wrong? You sound so sad.
Pete. I'm not sad at all. I'm doing great.
Oh, well, that's good.
I'm kind of hungry, but you know what? I can wait.
I'm hungry as well. I'm gonna crush some frozen pizza. Yummy, yummy.
Are you hungry for 200-word RPG challenges?
No.
Yeah, I'm not too hungry for those right now either. We don't have enough time. Instead, I'd rather we just like... I was late by 0.4 seconds. Oh no! Patchwork.
Unsubscribed. That is just.
You don't deserve your subscription if we're that late.
You're correct about that, Jeremy. I agree. Patchwork, we've wronged you, and I apologize most sincerely.
But yeah, we're gonna keep getting on topic. We're gonna keep on just hitting our way through these concoction things. We're gonna be figuring out how to make these potions.
Yeah,
it's we're kind of on a roll here. Things are going good. Also, hello, Ivalon.
Hi, Ive.
Oh no! Setting everything on fire. Oh no, Ivalon, you can't wait for 200-word RPG.
We just decided that we weren't going to end up doing it today.
But you know what? You're also the only one in chat who seemed to have strong opinions one way or the other.
That's true.
Which, you know what? Maybe we can do it. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, all right. We said we would do it.
Well, we're doing it just for you. We're doing this just for you, bud.
No,
turn that no into a yes.
We got a half an hour. We could mess around with some stuff. One of these weeks, we'll go back and do the. Ivalon, I love you guys. Love you too.
I want to hash out Owlbear Dating Simulator more.
I wanted to go down and really start writing up Fight Club pretty.
Oh.
But Jeremy, why don't you, because we have a half an hour and we can work efficiently right now, why don't you start talking about Owlbear Simulator while I start improving the writing on Fight Club?
That sounds like very bad viewership. That might be bad for the audience.
That might be true, but it will be good, I promise.
Well, Pete, I think I've got a really cool idea for Owlbear Dating Simulator, though.
Oh, well, hit me.
Pete, what if we take these mating rituals and we make them into things that people have to act out and do? So interpretive dance is a great one. The shot put is a great one. I don't know. I think we can do some good stuff with this.
I think absolutely.
I don't know. Now that I'm looking at some of these, I don't know if we can.
Head rotation.
Let's go to Fight Club. I'm with you. Let's go to Fight Club.
No, head rotation. See how far people can turn their heads around. Killing.
Ow! Oh, my head. Kind of doesn't which one. It kind of doesn't matter which one you pick because they should be different. Core mechanics. I see. I was reading Ivalon's comment in the chat. And I was a little confused because I missed the first comment. There should be a panel of judges.
I think there was somewhere in the original one. Let's reread. If we're gonna do Fight Club, let's reread what we kind of talked about last time.
Let's go to Fight Club, guys. We're gonna do Fight Club. Fight Club is the one we worked on the most last week, and I really liked it.
Yes,
this is very good. So we're gonna make this a title, Fight Club. You want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
I'll go. You are part of a fish fight club. The game is getting to the club without the humans finding out, winning, and getting back to your tank. We kind of eliminated the finding out and getting back to your tank phase and boiled it down just to the true fighting in Fight Club. It's a very combat-centric game. Each player picks an item that you can find in a fish tank. You have it. Escape from the tank. Beware the filter. Verbal combat. So the core premise of the game that we came up with was combat is entirely verbal. There's no dice rolls. It's just based around quick thinking and ability to improvise and RP out your attacks and strikes. And the way combat functions is a fish narrates its attack against another fish. The other fish narrates its parry and retort. Repeat until one fish flounders. That phrase will be in the final cut of the game, undoubtedly, because it's very good. Laughter equals a loss. if your opponent can... Oh, wait.
That's the glove.
If your opponent can chug a cup of water faster than you retort, you lose. This was highlighted in yellow because that mechanic's a little weird.
I think Pete, this would fall under in DnDTime Worlds, the super meme edition. Dana,
Yes,
come here.
that's the super meme edition indeed. As an important thing to include in DnDTime Worlds for certain, and maybe here as well. You gain a number of points equal to the scale of the combat, how much it escalates before finishing, and I think the winning fish.
Oh, that's true.
Gains a number of points equal to the scale of the combat, how much it escalates before finishing.
Yes, but I think it would be neat if the losing fish also got something for getting that far.
Yeah, half probably.
Okay, my cat's being bad. He's attacking my.
That makes a lot of sense as well. And basically, combat lasts up to 10 rounds, and we have our kind of scaling in terms of how the combat is meant to progress. So it starts off with the fish using petty personal insults. The fish go back and forth insulting each other, and then it moves on to regular fish-based moves, the ability to bite and to flounder and splash. Then it scales up to martial arts, punching and kicking and techniques. Basic medieval combat, swords and maces and so on and so forth. Handheld ballistics like the handgun, modern military, advanced medieval combat, which would be magic, future tech, which would be things like ray guns and blasters, superhero, which would be laser vision, god tier. This would be your level 20 D&D characters, reality warping, cosmic power, and then if you get to 10, humans intervene in your fight and both of you lose. Which means that if neither fish or player in this case is able to kind of make their opponent laugh or kind of mess up their opponent's rhythm with their strike before then neither one is able to win. So two powerfully or evenly matched opponents will result in humans stopping their fight. And that is the thing I really like about this game, and I think we discussed this a little bit last week, but the thing I really like about this game design is that it feels like what it is. It actually feels like you're kind of battling opponent, and I think battling your opponent, and I think it very much gets into putting you into the mindset of, being a fish and having these incredible powers. Obviously, like, it's cartoony in terms of the scaling, but you're like feeling like you're doing the fighting by like having to counter and then jab back. And that's where we're at.
I think there's one thing this is absolutely missing. And I think we kind of hit on this at the very end with this joke, but it needs a time limit. You know what I mean? It needs something between, for each round to not get overly convoluted.
I think your time limit is your breath. You can't...
one breath?
Yeah. How did you imagine this playing out in terms of the pacing? Because in terms of pacing, I imagined it being like a very quick back and forth, like a full game of, like a full battle in Fight Club would take maybe 2 minutes to like, if it makes it all the way to the end, maybe 4.
Okay.
What were you thinking?
That's the problem. I'm having a hard time right now, like, conceptualizing what a game of this would look like.
Jeremy, would you like to play Fight Club?
That's exactly what I was getting at, Pete. Let's try and play Fight Club. So Pete, can you please describe your fish? I think that should be the first thing, actually.
Yes.
Go back to
I think that's a great point.
Describe your fish. Include such details as coloration, size. What else do you put?
Name.
Oh yeah, name.
Preferred fish food.
Oh yeah. No, I don't.
I was just joking about that one. I think that's good enough. ETC.
Okay. Pete, can you describe me your fish?
Yes. I'd be happy to describe my fish. My fish is marlin. His name is Marvin. And as far as marlins go, his big kind of like pointy sword nose, because a marlin is, I don't know if it's this, I think it's similar to, but not identical to the swordfish. And my marlin's kind of pointy nose, it's very kind of snub. He's basically a marlin without the point, which just looks like a weird, very pointy fish. And he's got the kind of usual blue coloration on the top of him, and a terrible scar over his right eye from years of powerful battle. Jeremy,
fish.
Who's your fish?
I've got a goldfish. His name is Goldfish. He's pretty fat. He eats a lot of fish food. He's owned by a 6-year-old girl who feeds him too much. Oh, that's something that has to be added in here. Whoever owns the fish.
Yeah, fish owner.
Besides being bloated, he's otherwise, uninteresting. Fairly shiny sheen.
All right. Fair enough.
All
Jeremy,
right, now how does the game start?
You sound very sad when you said that. Like
I was putting myself in that fish's spot and like.
Okay, you were. Oh, of course, this is a good RP.
This is a role-playing game, Pete. This is not 200-word game challenge.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. You're right. Can you
Patchwork, I did not know that they could live forever. That's pretty crazy.
Now, Jeremy, I didn't catch your fish's name. Can you remind me?
Goldfish.
Oh, the name was Goldfish.
Yes,
your fish never received a name.
Oh, actually, it's probably fishy. Actually, probably correct.
Okay.
Owned by a 6-year-old girl.
This is fishy.
You know the type. Pigtails. Probably eats a little too much. Parents pamper her. Probably only child. Treats me terribly. Smacks the tank a lot. Your classic 6-year-old girl.
Great point from Ivalon here. You've got an important rule. Name your items. What's your one fish tank item?
My one fish tank item. I have a lollipop, but it's got a big bite taken out of it. It was dropped in my tank.
My fish has a fish hook that's kind of stuck in the side of his mouth from the time that he got away.
Wow. Pretty good item.
Yeah, I like your item better.
I like the fish hook.
In that case,
how does this work?
So how does this begin?
One fish narrates its attack against another fish.
We haven't figured out how matchmaking works, and I think we can get into, because Fight Club and what it means to be in a Fight Club. There's a lot of fish showing up, and they're like kind of willy-nilly getting into battles. And I think at some point we'll talk about how we make our pairings. Yeah, how you do it, because like I don't know.
Okay, sure.
It seems relevant because you can. Sure. There's a point system, and that less it's just binary, and it's just you win or lose, and nothing else matters. We
can think about this.
Yes. So I think it just begins with one fish kind of taking the initiative and kind of moving into the fight, and I think that's how the fights win. And in this case, I think that. Oh shit! What was my guy? Marvin. I think that Marvin the Marlin is going to take initiative at you, and he looks over at you and he goes, "Hey, tubby fish, what are you doing here? This is meant for tough fish. You look like you were owned by some tiny little pigtailed girl."
To which Fishy will respond, "Hey Marlin, if you want to win, you better make better jokes than that. Do I already lose?
You may have lost because you didn't retort. Oh wait, was that your retort? Oh, you said the joke was bad, but you have not offered your own. So no, I think you're okay.
Oh, okay. Because I need to parry and then.
So that's your parry, and now is your. Okay, yes, that was your parry, and that.
Okay, let's try. Can we try again?
Yeah. All right.
Oh, start again.
All right, I'll start again.
Start with a parry. Wait, you go first.
I Marvin look at you and call you. Hey, you look like you were owned by a little pigtailed girl.
I've lost.
Wait, did you laugh?
No, you're right. How do I parry that? I am owned by a little pigtailed girl. I've lost.
It's just an unbeatable insult. All right. And for my insult being too powerful, I've earned 0 points for that round.
Yeah, get wrecked.
So that one, and also you have, but that wasn't an effective. That wasn't an effective strategy.
I'm very bad at this.
Jeremy, would you care to initiate combat this time? Have Fishy, let it make me hurt. Marvin's a very sensitive fish on the inside. He's just, his tough exterior kind of belies that, but.
Hey, Marvin, have you ever thought that maybe you've never been caught because no one wants to catch you?
I've already lost. I think I just lost immediately.
This is a very strange game.
Okay. And then Marvin goes, see, I think the problem is that the personal attacks phase is by far the most difficult one.
Most combats end personal attack. All right. Want to try again?
Yeah, give me one more. Hit me one more time.
Hey, Marvin. You didn't say yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I lost. I laughed. Shit.
No, that doesn't count as a loss. Go. Okay. We got to get past the first phase.
Hey, Marvin, you smell like fish.
Oh, yeah, that's probably because I'm a fish, idiot. If you couldn't see that, then you must not have a good brain.
I may not have a good brain, but I got some big teeth, and I bite you.
Marvin, as you go up to bite Marvin, ducks quickly to the side and flips his fin around, striking into Fishy's left flank.
As you go to strike into Fishy's left flank, Fishy is going to grab onto your fin, flip around, and judo chop your fin.
But the judo chop is caught by Marlin's pointy but slightly snubbed nose as Marlin moves into a rotating spin, flipping Fishy backwards.
But Fishy was ready for this. For as you flip him backwards, you flip him directly out of the catapult range. As his catapult fires, you lost.
Oh, you're right. Shit, you got me.
I just won.
Yeah, you got me. I think you also beat me. I think I definitely would count what I did as floundering during one of the martial arts phases.
All right, this is getting better. I think now that we've tried this a couple of times, we're getting somewhere. I got 3 points for that. You got 1 or 2 because I said round it up.
Yeah.
Good game.
Good game. Excellent game of Fight Club.
Oh, I'm sorry. We should add that to the end. Each combatant must say good game. Else gain no point.
Farfel 13, is floundering a mechanical term yet? Yes. Sort of. Yeah, fair.
Not really.
I think it is until one fish flounders.
That's it. Yep. Repeat until one fish flounders.
And then we have to just define flounders as floundering could be laughing, repeating something that was already said, or
such as laughing,
or breaking the flow of your description.
Repeating, breaking the flow of a description, or otherwise invoking onlooker booze.
Indeed.
The audience doesn't like you. You can't do it.
And I think the insult phase, and someone recommended it before. Well, I think the start of the fight happens after you trade insults pun, and the one with the best pun gets. Those the one with the best pun gets to go first. I think I like that more as part of like, whoever votes that there was a superior joke is the one who initiates combat, because it's easier to initiate combat probably. Or actually, is it harder to initiate combat?
I think it's definitely easier to be on the retort as you go up, but petty personal attacks, that's so hard to retort.
It is hard to retort.
It's so petty. So fucking petty.
But I almost like the idea that since it's first, you just like the game ends with one fish like crying and running away. Like every time, like the majority of fights are like that.
Maybe here we go. Maybe if a game ends at 0 points, each fish gets like a strike. And if you get 3 strikes, you lose or something.
You get kicked out of
Yeah, exactly.
Fight Club.
And maybe that's what it's all about. It's being the last 2 fish without strikes.
That don't fuck up on 0.
Yeah, and the having points is just the tiebreaker between those last 2.
I don't know. I think we'll get better at it though as we.
Want to try another time? Let's have new fish.
Let's have new fish. All right. My fish is a little neon, but he glows a little bit on the inside, and his name is Flick. His one single item that he carries with him is a single rock from within his fish tank that he took out because he's tiny and it's the only thing he's able to hold.
Okay, I like that one. My name is Leopard Seal. I've won. No,
not yet.
So I am Leopard Seal. I am a Plecostomus. I think that's the right word. Plecostomus.
I don't
I'm a Pleco. They're sucker guys who sit on the side of tanks and suck up all the algae. Oh my goodness, algae! Holy moly! See, I'm a Pleco, and my item is the body of my best friend, who's also a dead.
Oh no!
It's okay. Plecos eat.
Poor Pleco.
Yeah. My name is Leopard Seal, and I'm a Pleco, and I have a dead.
All right, Jeremy, would you care to insult me?
Your name was Flick, and you're a neon tetra.
Yes, sir.
And you have a rock.
I have a tiny little pebble.
Neon, your smile doesn't even glow.
My smile glows just fine. But for that, I promise you that you're going to end up just like your little friend there.
My little friend. You're about as size as he is. And I'll tell you, he's pretty tasty, and I'll go to bite you.
As you go in to bite, you see Flick move artfully to the side and use the only thing that a low-level fish can do. Actually, this time he's going to push some water at you as you are moved backwards slightly by the force of him flapping his tiny fin.
But as you flap your tiny fin, I flap my tiny fin back in a swirling, twisting motion, creating a little typhoon, a whirlpool.
Little Flick rides around the whirlpool, circling around the outside, unleashing a flurry of fin strikes.
As you unleash your flurry of fin strikes, your fins come close right up against my nunchucks, which I'm spinning around aggressively, powered by the whirlpool.
As the nunchucks go to strike Little Flick, they are countered by another stringed weapon. In that case, it appears to be a flail, but you see the end of it is replaced by Flick's pebble as he strikes it towards you.
As Flick strikes his pebble toward me, I reach into the body of my friend and take out a handgun and shoot it at Flick.
Flick takes the shot as you realize He's wearing a bulletproof vest. In turn, Flick pulls out his own RPG, and a missile begins coursing towards your fish across the tank.
The name's Leopard Seal, as Leopard Seal says as he closes the top to his A1 Abrams tank, left in his tank as a decoration, and tanks your missile and fires back at you.
Is the sound that Leopard Seal hears as he looks up from above and sees a nuclear airstrike coming down. I definitely laughed really hard at one point a little while ago, but I didn't.
I definitely also laughed. I want to think deep down I win.
Yeah, I definitely chuckled pretty hard. I can't remember what it was. It might have been the handgun.
So I got 5 points. You got 3 points.
Yes.
Good game.
Good game. Requires a little practice. I think
this is definitely a little weird.
It's definitely funky. I definitely think it's fun. I'm having fun doing it.
I think what we need, right, is we need we don't have a rule if the person speaking laughs at their own thing, though. I think if they laugh without floundering, it's okay. And I think, right, floundering, it's based on whatever the onlookers, right?
Yeah.
The non-participant.
Yeah, I think non-participants call out floundering.
And actually, oh right, we'll just call them glubbers. Perfect. I think like as you blank. I think that's a good like cadence that we need to kind of establish. So here's like, as you blank. And then it's just like, so like, here we go. As Flippy swims into the fishbowl, he stares down his opponent. Their opponent. They stare at. We don't know if Flippy's a boy. And says, I think that's how we should need to start. They stare. Yeah, that's correct. I don't know, man. My grammar's totally out.
I think it was just
It might actually be fun to run this with Chad as the crowd. I actually agree. So it's like, as Flippy swims into the fish, they stare down their opponent, blank, and say, Marlin, you're dumb.
I'm
You're
smart.
Fucking pathetic.
You're dumb. Begin to fight. I actually think I already lost.
Yeah, you didn't retort. You didn't.
No, I said I'm
smart.
Oh, but I did also chuckle a little bit.
Yeah, and you used my same insult back at me.
Oh wait, you're right. That would actually be, by this definition, floundering.
Yeah.
Everyone says you're so dumb.
Good game.
You need to go back to school. Yeah, good game. I think there are definitely. Also, I was pretty proud of when I put Flick's pebble back into his weapon, and I feel like I should get style points for that.
I agree. I should say
doing a good job of role playing your like particular fish's style. I think like the audience can grant style points.
Your item or fish description into your attacks grants style points up to 1 point per use, or per round rather.
I will ask the questions, what do the winning, losing, and style points do for you, though? I think that's the whole game. I think the goal of the game is just to win or lose. And at the end of it, it's about that you fought.
Yeah, exactly.
Very much, it's very much just the... It's very much just the joy of combat, much like
you know what I actually kind of like about this. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think in Fight Club, everyone wins except that guy with the least points. He loses.
I also like the idea that you can, if enough people who are kind of in the third party decide to reward you, and maybe that's like the rule is each player that's watching gets to give out 1 point per match, or something along those lines. I like the idea of someone doing some really great description and having some really cool moments in the fight, and even though they break first, they still win the fight because of how cool it was.
Yeah, I dig it. So it's just I will say incorporating your item or fish into your attacks, or just doing a good job, can gain you points. Each onlooker has 1 point, which they can award after fight.
I also like the idea of it's mid-fight. I like the idea of it being instant feedback. And it's like cheering, because then it also feels like cheering for the fight. Because that's part of the Fight Club aesthetic,
Yeah. Mid-fight. I dig this. We're getting better here. We just iterated on Fight Club.
Yeah.
Granting style points. I dig. Oh, actually, this is not.
But then do they get a point each round or each fight? I think those. I don't think
fight.
There's a.
Yeah,
I think it's just a fight. And nothing is carried over.
Yeah, no, they just get one.
I think it requires. I think it has to be an even number of players. Or actually, I guess there doesn't have to be one.
Does it matter?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I think that each fight is at the full game. How do you feel about that? It's no like tracking score over the long term. It's just at the end of the fight, someone won and someone lost, but they shake hands and acknowledge that they did fight, and that was the purpose.
You see, we could. And Edity's got a good point. Do there need to be points? Can't each individual fight have a winner vote and then just move on to the next? We could do that. That's definitely an option. But I want to get the most points.
Yeah.
This is a dumb 200-word RPG. I want it to be as...
I like that gaminess of it. That's something that I think a lot of the 200-word RPGs don't do, is have that kind of more gamey aspect to it. And I like getting points. That just seems fun to me, personally.
Well, I really like this whole, like... it is beautiful, Avalon. Don't get me wrong.
I love it.
Dumb is beautiful. I really like the idea of everyone wins except for one person and they lose. That makes me happy. Just whoever has the least, they lose. Otherwise, everyone else wins.
Everyone in the crowd wins.
No, I mean it's just over like a course of however many fights.
Over the course of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, just last person loses.
Yeah, super easy. Whoever the last, they lost.
Yeah. I don't know. This is pretty good. It's getting better.
Jeremy, we're improving. There have been positive improvements to Fight Club.
Want to play one more for the road?
Here's the issue with this right now. We are currently at how many words?
I would guess 273.
We are at. This is not a word counter. I can tell you how many characters we're at. All right, we are at 276. Holy shit!
Holy shit!
Oh my god! Well, fucking done, Pete.
I've made a lot of these, so I did actually have a good kind of internal sense about where we were at. But that was better. That was better than I should have been able to do.
That's terrible. Yeah, I'll play one more for the road. You want to describe your fish?
Yeah, I'd be happy to describe my fish, Jeremy. My fish this time is a I know two kinds of fish, and I already used both of them. My fish this time was a clownfish. My clownfish, you see they're carrying, as their one item, they're carrying a lot of Finding Nemo memorabilia, and it seems that they're really hoping to someday live up to the expectations of their hero. Nemo is the idea that you get. But as far as clownfish go, like the striping pattern on their sides isn't very good. They're definitely no cute Nemo. And their name, they're introducing themselves as Nemo, which you know they're not.
I am playing a shark, and my item is a severed arm. I live in the fish tank of a drug lord down in. It's actually not. You'd think it'd be down in like Miami. It's actually in Maine.
Jesus.
No one would have thought, but drug lords with their sharks in Maine.
It's dark as.
Oh, and my name is the Fishes.
The Fishes.
The Fishes.
The Fishes.
They're gonna sleep with the fishes.
Oh no.
He calls me the Fishes.
All right, Jeremy. Shall we begin?
Yeah, you should start because I started last year time.
Ah, very well. Let me use the new dialogue that we have.
Yeah, we have some dialogue here.
We have a dialogue tree. As Nemo swims into the fishbowl, they stare down their opponent and say, "You're not nearly as cute as Bruce the shark from my favorite film, Finding Nemo."
As Nemo lets loose this terrible insult, the Fishes stares back and says, "But fish aren't friends, they're food. And I'm gonna eat you."
As the Fishes, sorry, I struggled for a moment to remember your name. As the Fishes threatens to eat Nemo, Nemo springs into action nearly instantly and goes forward to crash into Fishes and ram the full weight of their form into them.
As Nemo crashes forward, the Fishes does the only thing the Fishes can do. He moves ever so slightly to the left and bats with a single fin, almost careless.
But as that fin strikes up, Nemo darts quickly to the side, moving into the fish's large mouth, getting ready to deal lethal concussive blows from within with powerful fin strikes.
But as he goes to what he assumed to be the relative safety of the fish's mouth, the fish bites down upon the severed arm he's holding, activating the moves of the kung fu master he last ate, which strikes out toward Nemo.
You got me. Activating the moves of the kung fu master he once ate. Absolutely got me. I don't know if we're ever gonna make it to laser vision. Oh shit! I was just saying the exact same thing. You've bested
freaking
me.
Sharks with freaking laser beam.
You've bested me in Fight Club this day, so I've lost.
Good game.
Yeah, good game. I lost today.
Oh shit! You're right. I've won all of them.
Yeah, you won. I
did laugh at the very beginning of this one a little bit though. I chuckled to myself, so I might have actually lost already. But Indeed. Chat says I won, so I'm with chat.
No, I mean I say you've won. You took me down.
I like this though. I think this is okay. I'm not sure how much further we can possibly get this on our current iterations. You two are too giggly. We are a little giggly.
I feel like if I was...
I feel like in person this would be a lot easier.
Yeah, I would much rather play this game. Also, I can't see Jeremy's face, and I would very much like to see Jeremy's face during this game. Because I feel like this game is meant to be played... oh no. I feel like this game is meant to be played looking across the table at your opponent with like the deadpan serious face.
I also feel like the fact that there's one loser and everyone else wins, I feel like this is the who's getting pizza game, right? You play this to determine, we play this really quickly to determine who has to get pizza.
This is how you roll for initiative in D&D, and the person who loses goes last.
Sure. I mean, a weird way of doing it.
That's the world's worst initiative rules.
But
Or
anywho.
maybe the best. Farfel says, we're too giggly. Farfel, if you ever met me in a serious Fight Club match, I assure you, I would not giggle an iota.
I don't believe you.
I'd be terrible at this game. I am terrible at this game. And that's what I like about it.
Next water heist, huh? Oh, boy.
Next Dragon Water. That's it for DnDTime Brews, I think. We're getting somewhere on Fight Club. We came back and are working with it. It's not bad.
Yeah. No, I think this is coming along. And I think so is the Brewmaster.
Yeah.
Or
sure.
I don't know. I'm not really, I was sold on the Brewmaster before, but I'm not as much anymore. I just also not sold on Alchemist.
The one that was starting to look good to me was actually Apothecary.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a little mundane, but it's so antiquated that it's almost not mundane.
The thing I liked about Alchemist and the thing I like about Apothecary is they're just such iconic words. Yeah. Either way, we'll discuss that. It'll
indeed.
One day I know that it will just reveal itself unto us. And with that, tune in to our other content. That's going to be it for DnDTime Brews. Tune in on Wednesday for DnDTime Talks. We'll be discussing, I think we actually have a talk. We're going to be discussing improving as a DM, if I remember correctly, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, this is a really nebulous topic with a lot of wiggle room here. So I think it's going to be good. There's going to be a lot to talk about. And I think there's going to be a fair amount of I think there's going to be a ton of opportunities to take some questions from the chat too, especially toward the end.
Yeah, for sure.
So people have lots of questions.
Ivalon says improving as a DM, run lots of games there. I think that's definitely, definitely going to be a thing that we talk about as practice. But I think there's a lot of, I think we're going to talk a lot about not just practicing, but good practice and how to get the most out of your experiences.
There's a lot of people I know who, not that I know a lot of bad DMs, but a lot of people play a lot of D&D and are terrible dungeon masters. So there's not 100% truth to that statement, and that's something I think we're gonna go into a lot of detail and deep dive on Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll get deep on Wednesday. I think that's going to be a fun topic. And on Friday, tune into Pete and Jeremy's D&D Time. It's a show we host every Friday night where we play 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, but the main thing that makes our show unique is that our players are pulled from our viewer base. So anyone who watches can have the chance to play with us on stream. Yeah,
it's a ton of fun. This is episode 92 we're coming up on.
Yeah. Wow. Getting close to that 100.
Yeah, we got to figure out what we're going to do for that. We know exactly what we're going to do.
We know the precise details of what episode 100 will be. We've planned it for years. And then tune in a week from today for a Waterdeep Dragon Heist, where Jeremy is running us through the Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign. It's a lot of fun, and things I think, as Jeremy has said, are going to get real spicy this upcoming week.
It's supposed to get spicy this past week, immediately.
But it's going to spice up right quick.
Instead, you spend a lot of time hanging out with horses and doing other stuff.
We got a horse. That's D&D right there. We bought a horse, spent a lot of time buying a horse and giving it the world's worst name.
Muy caliente indeed, Matty Moore. Yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm actually really, really excited for this upcoming. It's gonna be pretty primo.
Yeah.
Pete, no DnDTime Worlds this week, right?
No. I want to keep. I like it on the week that it's on.
Yeah, I gotcha. Good to just mention that so everyone knows.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks a lot for watching. Thank you, all of you who've hung out with us, spent some time here, taken your time and spent it with us. I think I just said that 3 times, but really, we really appreciate it. It's crazy that you guys enjoy being here, spending time with us, making this cool stuff, and being part of this community. It means a lot to us.
Absolutely. And with that, and one last thank you for me as well, I'm Pete.
And I am Jeremy.
And this is DnDTime Brews.
Good night.
Good night.